Invocation will be given by Councilman Argo, but first, if you'll stand and render the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag with me, please. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you bow with me, please?
Gracious and loving Father, first of all, let us come to you with humble hearts. Lord, thank you for the gift of this day. Lord, we thank you for the Lord, we also thank you for the opportunity to gather this evening to do Lord, we know that in all of our thanks to you, that one of the greatest gifts that you give us is the relationships. I ask that you continue to bless those that are here, bless the families of those, the council, the mayor, and all of the city employees who work hard every day for this city and the citizens. Lord, I also ask that you be in these chambers this evening, that the decisions that we make, our desire to do what is right for our constituents and for the city. Lord, I ask that you guard our hearts and our tongues, and the things that we say and do will be pleasing to you and will be. Lord, as always, we thank you for your Son, for it's in his precious name we pray.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilman Striplin. Here. Councilman Wood. Here. Councilman Argo.
Here.
Councilman Miller.
Here.
Councilman Reniger.
Here.
Councilman Bowles.
Here.
Councilman Fank.
Here.
All are present. We'll call the meeting to order. 6:07 p.m. A character trait of the month is contentment, enjoying life as it comes. Gentlemen, you have each received copies of the minutes from the special session on October the 31st, the City Council meeting on November the 1st, and the work session on November the 8th. Are there any changes, adjustments that need to be made to these minutes? Councilman Miller.
Yes, sir. I would like to offer an amendment to the City Council minutes of November 1st. So of those three different sets of minutes, I'm speaking of that one in particular, that for the record, we include a verbatim transcript of the public comment session of the minutes. I think it's the title, Comments from Persons Present Regarding Tonight's Agenda, that be amended to include a verbatim transcript.
You've heard Councilman Miller's proposed amendment to the minutes. Is there a second? Second. Who seconded that? Nathan. Councilman Fank. Any discussion on the proposed amendment to the minutes? Councilman Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for my clarification, I want to make sure who would handle that. Would it be an additional cost? Who would handle that?
City clerk handles that.
So there's no cost?
No cost? No additional cost other than what we're already paying. Councilman Miller.
Thank you. And I did talk to Ms. McClellan before the meeting and discussed that. So I think that I can second that she would be the one to handle it. There'd be no additional cost. And a little bit of background on why I think this is important to do. You know, we had a lot of really good information shared with us, and the minutes, as we know, are really summaries, and they really just hit the highlights, and I don't think they came close to getting the richness and the detail that was shared with us. So lots of important stuff brought before us by a variety of constituents, and I just think that this is important to do, to incorporate it into this set of minutes.
Any further comments? Because it's moved and seconded that we amend the minutes. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign. Madam Clerk, if you'll amend those minutes as requested by Councilman Miller, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you. Councilman Argo. Councilman Argo has moved that we approve the minutes as amended. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Striplin. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the minutes as amended are approved. At this time, we will entertain comments from persons present that would like to address the City Council on anything that we have on our agenda tonight. Is there anyone that would like to address? Ms. Finnegan.
My name is John Lee Finnegan. I live at 211 Deer Trace Street. First of all, I want to thank you for having the monetary figures on each resolution on tonight's agenda. That is, of course, as you know, have been a pet peeve of mine for the last 2 or 3 years. I do ask a question on resolution number 4, why there was not a monetary amount. Just curious, since you were so good in getting the rest of them on there.
Let's look and see.
Yeah, number 4. Every other one has it. So I was just curious as to why there wasn't one on the agenda. It was resolution 22. Now it's number 4 on the new agenda.
Dealing with demolition of property.
Correct. Just curious, just curious.
In the body of the resolution, there's a figure, but in the title, you're right, there is no figure, but we'll get that corrected.
Yeah, but no, it was all, but all the other ones had it.
Yeah.
Also, I had one question. I had copied right before I came the agenda off the city's website, but it differs from the one that we picked up. How is it possible to get the same one? Because if somebody didn't attend the meeting and they go by this agenda, it's different from the one that's handed out.
Are you talking about tonight's agenda?
Yeah, tonight's agenda.
Okay.
This was what the one was on the website, and this is the one that's handed out, and it's different, rearranged and stuff like that.
Well,
and I wonder how soon that happens.
We'll make sure that that's the same.
Okay.
I think probably, and I may be wrong on this, but I think probably what the confusion is we have multiple items that need approval to be purchased, and depending on what we do with the budget tonight, that may be a moot point, or it may have to go on a consent agenda because there's just a volume of
But
it.
I'm just wondering if this same exact one could be put online too at the same time. That's all. But anyway, I do deeply appreciate you getting all the monetary amounts, especially on one this size. Also, I did watch the 11/8 work session. I teach a class the second Tuesday of every month, so was not able to attend the work session. However, I missed a lot of the conversation due to no mic being used. And I'm just wondering, in the future, would it be possible to have individual mics for each person, or to make sure that each individual has the mic before speaking? Because there were questions asked and conversations, and I couldn't hear it.
That's a very good suggestion, and yes.
Yeah,
We'll take that in hand.
It would really be helpful, because there was a lot, especially since it was the budget work session, there was a lot of questions missed and a lot of answers missed. Okay.
We'll take care of that.
Well, I appreciate that. All right. Also, regarding the budget, I came before you on September 12th and presented a long list of questions. And in fact, Mr. Reniger, you commended me on how I went into detail on the budget. And I offered to type it up and get it to you to get the answers back. And I had asked that the answers be provided just like the previous one when we were doing Byard's, where every question had the answer written below it. And unfortunately, I have not gotten the answers. And I'm just, it's been 2 months.
Well, I apologize to you, and I'm not passing the buck on this, but I thought the mayor was working on that for you.
Yeah, well, I did not get the answers. And it would have helped me going through the budget questions also. The main reason I'm coming before you is regarding the proposed wastewater fee increases in the enterprise fund. And I'm assuming that's on the agenda tonight because it's part of the budget, if I'm correct. with the enterprise fund, the wastewater and the enterprise fund.
We
So
will
it-
have a separate wastewater enterprise fund
Correct.
item, but it's not on our agenda tonight.
Okay, so I need to come back and speak to that after
Yes.
the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I will do that then. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mayor.
If I might, thank you for coming down tonight. But on the consent agenda, I think that's what you're talking about. There was a decision made late this afternoon to have that all brought down as a consent agenda, and I was not able in time
Okay.
to get that information to the webmaster. But that decision was made and to help speed up the process here.
Okay.
Not by me, but some other people in charge. The microphones, I think you and I have actually talked about those over the years, and last time I checked, if memory serves me correct, those microphones are $800 each.
Yeah.
And so anyway, right now we don't have that in the budget, but you do make a very good point there. I wish we could at least have one more, but if nothing else, as a backup. But also it'd be very helpful when we do have the work session down on the floor. And I'm fairly certain that an email was sent out to you answering all those questions. I'll make certain that it does get out to you then, and I do apologize on that.
Yeah. Well, also going back to the microphone real quick is just make sure any person speaking then has the microphone. You got up a lot in that meeting, so all right. So I will talk about the wastewater fee and the enterprise fund at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on an agenda item? Anyone? Light's kind of bright up here, so I have to kind of shade my eyes here. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gray.
I'm Allison Gray. I live at 1698 Old Country Road. I have found a house in town, though, gentlemen. I have this in my hands. I've talked to a lot of people the last couple of weeks. Most of you I've talked to, but I've mostly a lot of citizens that I've addressed these issues with. And y'all need to pass this budget. People are beginning to feel like the city of Prattville is, it's almost like we're held hostage or something. And when we have to come in here and we have to go before the city council to get amounts like, $37, $50 and all that kind of stuff approved, y'all need to get with the program and get it done, okay? I don't like having to come up here. I don't like it at all. And I hope this is the last time I have to come up here. I like to come up here when I can brag on y'all because I think you're doing a good job. That makes me feel good. It makes the city of Prattville look good. It makes the citizens feel good. But lately, that just has not been the case. And I don't know how else to say it, except that you just need to get it done. People are getting really upset about it. And I appreciate Mr. Argo's prayer tonight. I think that each of you need to really dig down deep and think about this and do what's best for the citizens and put all the game plan and the politicking aside. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Gray? Mr. Argo.
Ms. Allison, thank you very much for those comments. Let me just say that I guess the best thing I could do is ask you a question.
Okay?
And you said that we need to pass the budget.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing with me which budget you would like for us to pass?
The one where you don't cut public safety?
Unfortunately, that budget's not before us, so you're going to have to give us a little bit
So
more
which
time
one
to get
is
that
before
budget.
you?
The Finance Committee's budget is before us at the moment, but we're
So
going.
that's the one you're going to vote on tonight?
No,
the
ma'am.
Finance Committee's
no, ma'am.
budget?
That's the one that's before us. I'm not ready to vote on that budget. I would like a little bit more opportunity to review the mayor's budget that he released today with some revised figures, which I think is more in line with my thinking. So understand that what I'm doing tonight is not politicking and it's not game playing. It's an opportunity to get a budget before the council that everybody knows what's on every page and every figure is known to every single one of us. And when we do vote, we're all voting for the exact same thing or opposing the same thing. So please give me just a little bit more time.
Okay, so when did the mayor turn in his original budget? What was the date?
It was September. It was in September. I don't remember the exact date.
So that was, what, 6 weeks ago?
I don't know the date, so I'll take your word
But
for
it's
it.
been a
6 weeks.
while. It's been at least 6 weeks ago because I've spoken at the last 3 city council meetings, which means it had to be at least 6 weeks ago.
Yes.
Mr. Argo, I think that's plenty of time to review that budget. I'm sorry, but, and I mean, do we have the mayor's budget or do we have the finance committee's budget?
That was my question to you.
I don't know. You tell me. You're the one. I don't have it.
The budget that's before us is the finance committee's budget.
So why isn't the mayor's budget before us?
And Miss Allison, I don't mean to give you a lesson in government, but
Oh, please do.
the mayor is required by law to present a budget to the council. The
He did
council, and then the council is required by law to review that budget and make any changes it deems necessary. So just because a mayor presents a budget does not mean a council just closes their eyes and vote for it. So please understand.
Well, maybe we need to set a timeline on how long the council has to review it.
I'm sure as a tax-paying citizen, you would like for us to be very diligent in what we do, and the mistakes that have been made in the past are not repeated. So please just give me a little bit more time.
Just remember, Mr. Argo, these were not our mistakes.
I
Mr.
understand
President.
that. I understand that.
Okay?
Okay?
So don't punish us and, get the job done.
Miss
Because
Allison,
that's
now
what
you
the
know I love you,
citizens
but
pay
you're,
you
you're
for.
making you're
I
making
know, I
statements.
love you too, but
you're making statements that are
I don't think so.
you're not being punished. You haven't missed a garbage pickup. You haven't missed a toilet flush. You haven't missed anything. So you're not being punished. Give us the time that we need to make sure we do the right thing. I know that's what you want us to do.
Mr. Argo, when I come into town and there are only 5 police officers on duty in the city of Prattville, then I'm being punished.
And that is not a function of the city council. That is a function of the police chief and the mayor.
Well, when they don't have the budget to do it,
Mr. President.
that's a little difficult.
Mr. President, if I might, I love both of them. I love all you guys up there, and if you don't mind, if I could just interject here, and please don't get mad at me, but I do have a hybrid here in front of me.
Mayor,
We'll be
Mayor.
talking about
You
that.
have a what?
Mayor, by parliamentary procedure, Councilman Argo has to yield the floor before I can grant your
I apologize.
I yield the
request.
floor.
Okay, go ahead. Councilman Argo is yielding.
Can I go sit down? Since I've had my lesson in government?
And love. I spoke about how much I love you, but I will be talking about a hybrid budget in a little bit. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on any item on the agenda? Yes, sir. Come forward. Good
Hello,
evening.
Councilman Reniger and the rest of the council and the mayor. I actually want to address the council about some issues that are not necessarily on the agenda, and I want to know at what time I could do that or at what place within the.
Well, now, if it's on the agenda, you can address it now. I'll open the floor back up after we complete the agenda for everything that's not on the agenda.
And then I may address those issues at that time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
But now, if you have something for, on the agenda you want to address us, now's the time to do that.
No, I would like to do that after you have finished everything that is on the agenda, and if you would let me know when that would be, I would appreciate it.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, sir. Anyone else want to address the council on any item on the agenda this evening? Okay, Mayor, do you have a report for us?
And I apologize for jumping into that. It just at the time seemed to be the best thing to do.
That's why I'm here, to enforce the rules. Go right ahead.
Well, I don't know what I had Chief over here for, but you multitasking now? Okay, what I want to talk about is that before you was already delivered I'm going to call it a hybrid budget. But anyways, made up from both the mayor's budget and the finance committee's budget. This revised budget has a 2% growth removed. There's also some other cuts involved from multiple departments. I need to say that of all this budget ordeal, I believe that something good has come out of this current budget exercise. That can be debated at a later time and date by various factions all over the city through newspaper and TV, you name the entity, and I'm certain it will probably be talked about. And on one hand, that's probably a good thing because at least it's making everybody aware of how serious we are up here about the situation that we're in, the economic waters the whole world is in, and I really do appreciate everybody, I guess, pretty much hanging in there with us. And I do appreciate Mrs. Gray coming up here and helping me out every way that she has, and I will be able to talk with her later on, I hope, to explain some of this hybrid budget to her. But also, I'll tell you, I've learned quite a bit out of this endeavor that we have called our 2011 budget, 2011-2012 budget. And I hope the council looks forward to the 2013 process as we finish up on this 2011-2012 budget process. But before you will see that AKA hybrid budget. Please find time to review it, and hopefully you can, of course, you guys can do whatever you want to. You could stand up here tonight and you could make some amendments to, I guess, it's resolution number 3, which talks about our budget. But personally, I hope you just go ahead and vote it down tonight, and then that way we can have this hybrid budget brought back before us, look it over, and vote it, move on, so that way we can move on. Whereas we do not have to have a budget at all. That has been brought up numerous times, but it is very inefficient, and that is one reason why we need this consent agenda before us tonight. And there's multiple items on here that just pretty much goes about the day-to-day operations of the city, and there is a possibility we might have accidentally left 1 or 2 items off this list. And if we have, I'll beg for forgiveness, but it is just, it does show exactly how inefficient that we are without a budget. And I will say that as we have moved forward since I've taken over here, I think we have streamlined and made things a lot more efficient, and I look forward to working with you guys through this process as we go forward. But one other thing I do want to talk about also is our International Girl Effect Week. It's a little-known event. Anyway, it's November the 21st to the 27th, and pretty much it's just it's called the Girl Effect Week, and it's promoting the effect that women have on this world of ours. It promotes goodwill, expanding economic opportunities for our youth, and brings awareness for our youth. And if anybody has the time, they can get on the website is girleffect.org, and I do ask that you guys go on that, and you might enlighten yourself and add something to your life that you might be able to share with somebody else in the future. The only other thing I really have to talk about tonight, and I do realize that the last work session I was a little long-winded, so I'm going to keep my remarks fairly short tonight, but we do have a Christmas tree lighting on December the 1st here in front of City Hall at 5 o'clock, and I hope that each and every one can be there. And I guess we also have another event, Thanksgiving. It's right around the corner, and there again, I cannot speak for the council, only for myself, and I feel like I can speak for my family, but all the trying times that we have been through, I'm still very, very thankful for what I have, what Prattville has, and I know that we're probably in a very difficult situation right now, but I truly believe that as we work through it, we will become a lot better from it. I also appreciate the hard work that you guys have done and all the city employees, whether they're here standing behind us or out on the streets tonight, or they have the regular 8 to 5 working hours. But I think as a city we can move forward, and I think if you guys take a good close look at this hybrid budget, you will see that it should be a compromise that all of us can live with. The city functions can be, the city departments can function with this budget, and so please look at it carefully, and let's move forward as soon as possible. That's all.
Any questions for the mayor? I have one. Mayor, I know that you that our finance director sent this hybrid budget to us as an attachment by email, but were y'all going to have a hard copy for us tonight? It's right there. Or is that what's in this file?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll distribute this to the council members. I just
Which,
want to make sure.
And I know as you being council president and also chair of the finance committee, I do want to appreciate everything that you guys have done in that area, and I know it's been a very difficult process, which I also know that, as well as you do, that both budgets are based off of the 1 penny sales tax being extended.
Right.
And now that is one area that I hope that the council decides to move forward on tonight, and whether it's made through just the 2012 budget cycle or if it's through the 2013 budget cycle. If it is approved through the 2013 budget cycle, it will cut down on a lot of inefficiencies that we have that we've experienced over the last 2 months or so.
Any other questions? Councilman Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor, I appreciate you getting this together, and Doug and everybody that's worked on it. And first of all, you answered my question. Any budget, whether it be a hybrid or a Cadillac budget, it hinges on a 1 cent sales tax. Am I correct?
The finance committee budget that was presented is based off of a 1 penny sales tax extension. The mayor's budget is a 1 penny sales tax extension, and so is a hybrid.
Okay.
And if somebody wants to rename it from hybrid, I'm not married to that name. So
Again, thank you for, and I've had a chance to glance through this. I picked my copy up earlier so I could go through it. And I urge all the council members that I think it's a collaboration of what the finance committee put together along with what your office has put together.
yes, sir.
I also want to say, based on what you just said, after we left our work session last week, I came to the conclusion with sincere prayer and a lot of thought that I'm going to be bringing an amendment to this floor tonight. It may not be popular with a lot of people, but I think extending the 1 cent sales tax is the first thing we need to do through 2013. This council will be responsible for passing the budget not only for this fiscal, we're going to be responsible for passing one 2013. I don't think we should lead that obligation whether I'm in this seat or any of these other gentlemen are in the seat or you in the seat. So at the appropriate time, I'll speak more about that and bring it at that time. Again, thank you.
Thank you. And I have talked with numerous people around the city, and I know without a doubt that we've had several people, community leaders and various churches and individuals praying for all of us up here, that because we are in some unique times that I hope the next generation does not have to endure. But I think we are moving in the right direction. We have reduced our costs. We're still looking to reduce those costs and still provide the services that a municipality is supposed to provide. And I truly believe we're moving in the right direction. And I mentioned earlier about when we get around to when it's time for the 2013 budget process to come up, there's going to be There's going to be a few more changes there. As I have commented on for several years, I never really preferred the type of budget that was previous administrations. The type of budget I still have provided is still not my preferred. It's not a Cadillac. Don't know if we'll ever get to a Cadillac as long as I'm here, but anyway, I still see that there are some tweaking and some adjustments that we can make to help get not only the citizens, but the council, the department heads, and myself more involved with the budget process. And I do see that you'll see some, I will see too that you do see some changes for the 2013 process.
Councilman Argo.
Mayor, first of all, I want to commend you for working on this hybrid budget. It was very clear from our work session the other evening that there were some concerns about your original budget, and there were some concerns about the Finance Committee's budget. And I think this is an honest attempt to get us back to the middle where we need to be. I asked everyone at that time to try to get on the same page, and I think we're getting there. I do have a couple of real quick questions. As I was asking Ms. Gray to give me just a little bit more time, I'm inclined to look at your budget and to be more in favor of your budget than I am the Finance Committee's. But before I make a determination, I'm going to need a little bit more time. And I know you said that you would like for us to vote down the Finance Committee's budget, but I'm not ready to do that either. But what I would like to do is ask you a couple of real quick questions. Number one is, how does your hybrid budget treat police and fire? Since most of the firemen and police officers here tonight are mostly interested in those particular departments, how does your hybrid budget treat those two departments?
Well, there are, I mentioned earlier, there are some cuts in a few departments. There were some cuts in police, fire, and leisure services. As far as personnel, there's no effect on that at all.
No cuts?
No cuts.
Okay.
Except for through attrition.
Right, I got you.
Through attrition.
And I think that's a wise move. My heartburn about adopting a budget tonight, whether it be yours or the Finance Committee's, centers on a couple of questions like, during the work session the other evening, we asked you if your budget included the 11 holidays, and you said it did. Does the hybrid include the 11 holidays?
Yes, sir. You know, as you're well aware of, holidays can only be changed by the council.
Right. Okay. Second question is, I understand that there was an employee insurance committee that talked about a possibility of a $25 health insurance increase. Is that in this budget?
There has been a $25, well, there will be a $25 per month increase in employees' insurance.
Okay.
But also, for full disclosure, is that once they go through a health risk assessment, then they will get a $25
They get a credit.
Credit, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. And then another question I would have would be, the state passed a change in employee retirement going from 5% to 7% and then 7.5% over the next 2 years. How does your budget treat employee retirement?
That has been no change in it. There again, that's
So it funds.
just like it has over the last X amount of years.
Okay.
There's been no change in that.
All right. But my question to you, and I want to be very clear on this because this affects a lot of people. Not me, but it affects a lot of people. If it treats everyone the same, the way that it's always paid, does it pay up to 5%? Or now that the state has made a change to 7.5%, does it fund the full 7.5%? Because if it funds the full 7.5%, that's an additional 2.5% the city is going to have to pick up. So I want to be very clear on that.
It is still the same. I believe it is the 5% unless
5%.
you're a public safety worker.
Right.
And then
That's
they pay a little bit different. Yes, sir.
Okay. Again,
Let me
thank you for this
double check on
budget. Well, I hate
Let me
to,
get our numbers. Maybe
I
our
hate to
numbers.
get Lisa up here because I know she doesn't want to be grilled, but I just appreciate this because that's very important to me. I've had a couple of employees that have talked to me about their retirement and health insurance, and I want to be very clear.
Sure. The mayor's budget includes the current rate that the city's inputting in retirement at this time. It does not change the rate from the employer to the employee.
Okay. So the employee would be responsible if the council decided to participate in the state retirement, then the employee would have to pick up that additional 2% this year and 2.5% or another 0.5% the following year.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Mayor, thank you very much. I appreciate this work.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. President.
there again, Doug Mosley has done the vast majority of the legwork. He is, and I hate to say, I don't know how many trees we've killed in the last couple of days, but Doug Mosley and his crew have worked quite some time late into the night on this.
Any other questions for our mayor? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We'll have the report on the status of the city's finance. Mr. Mosley.
Provided each of you with the standard financial reports that we do every month. Start off with the revenue report. As you'll see, the October and year-to-date are the exact same, being that this is the first month of the fiscal year. A lot of the October revenue will get pulled back into the 2010-2011 fiscal year because it'll get accrued over. But just so we could compare apples to apples, I left it like it is so we can see the difference month over month and year over year. You'll see we're 29.15% up from last year. That's $605,000. A large portion of that is going to be due to the sales tax increase, which accounted for $451,516 for the month of October. So we're still up year over year, even without the increase, but it would drastically cut that amount down. You'll see most everybody, most all the line items are up year over year. There are a couple, business license being one that's a little bit down from last year, and because our business license run on a calendar year, so the closer we get to December, the less of those we're going to have. And those will start coming in late December. We'll go ahead and start getting some of those in. That's pretty much it on the revenue line items. The next little section is the expense by department. And if you go through, most everybody's down from last year. Now, both October 2010 and 2011, especially on the salary lines, are the accrued salaries. So part of that month, part of that first month is taken out. A good example is the first payroll in 2011. I'm sorry, the 2011-2012 fiscal year was paid on October 7th. Well, that payroll was actually for the last 2 weeks of September. So that gets pulled out of the 2011-2012 expenses and moved back into the previous fiscal year. But just because the 2010 numbers are like that, I left it the same way in the 2011 numbers so that we can compare them. If you go through, most everybody's down year over year. No capital outlay, of course, we have no budget, so that's been held off on. And pretty much the bottom line to look at is $24,000 less so far this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. And that's pretty much it. And if one thing of note, as far as my department goes, we were supposed to start the audit last week, but with everything going on with the budget and work sessions and everything else, I asked them to push that back 1 week. So we should be starting that either tomorrow or Thursday, getting started on the budget. I mean, not budget, audit.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Mosley? Councilman Bowles?
You always have a question on this. Okay, I see where on the last line the salaries are down by $182,250, yet our benefits are up $141,878. That's sort of completely backwards of the trend. What's going on there?
One thing to kind of keep in mind, workers' comp insurance is in the benefits, and the way I did those accruals, I went ahead and did the accrual because we pay for it for the whole year, and part of it goes in one fiscal year, part of it another, and there's some accruals that have to go on. That's going to affect that number. Also, another thing to think about is our health insurance costs. We have some accruals that have to be made where some of the claims that we've paid in October were actually for September. So those will be pulled back.
Sorry, to make a few notes.
No, that's fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfectly good sense, but it just caught my attention that
Right.
our salaries are way down, but our benefits were way up, so I wanted to see what was going on there.
Right.
The other is, for the sake of the audience, y'all don't have what we have, and you're just hearing numbers, but I wanted to point out that we paid on debt service an extra $49,958 this month over last year. So the numbers we would have saved would have been greater, but a lot of that money went on to debt service. Am I correct?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Anything else for Mr. Mosley? Thank you, Mr. Mosley. We will go into reports from council members on special committees. Councilman Argo.
Start with Councilman Strickland.
No, I'm going to start with you tonight, Councilman Argo.
All right, you caught me totally off guard. I wasn't prepared. Members of the council, you recall at our work session that we had a presentation from Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. Ewell Screws is here tonight if there are any questions about Goodwin Mills and Kaywood's report on our infrastructure and facility needs and proposed budget. And then also we had a presentation from Jim Marshall from Jackson Thornton about recommended changes to our rate structure. At our next meeting, we will have resolutions to implement both of those recommendations, and those documents will be provided to Teresa Lee so that she can place those on the website and go ahead and get those up before our next meeting. But thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions of Mr. Argo? Mr. Wood?
No.
Mr. Strickland?
No, sir.
Mr. Miller?
The ambulance contract, I think, is almost finished, and I think I had sent out an email regarding that, and we will be following that up with sort of a summary email to point out the highlights and whatnot and distributing a final copy. And I think we're looking at, initially I said the first meeting in November, but the mayor has proposed a little bit different timeline that reflects some conversations with the county commission leadership. So things are sort of moving in that direction. I think that it's a very good contract and a good arrangement for the city. And we'll, of course, address any questions or concerns as we move towards finalizing it and adopting it.
Mr. Bowes?
No, sir.
Mr. Fink?
Just one thing, and are you going to comment on the interviews yesterday?
You may go right ahead.
Okay.
You're part of the interview team.
We conducted, I guess, 17 interviews yesterday for the benefit of the members of the council for the city clerk position. A tremendous number of qualified applicants, and we feel comfortable that we will be able to move forward with a recommendation to the full body of the council. I would venture to say within probably the first meeting in December, we should be able to take action on that, unless Council President Reniger decides at such time to call a special called meeting. But we should have no problem coming to a consensus with a recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Just a few light statements from the chair of the Finance Committee. The budget that is on our agenda is not set in stone. We never meant for it to be set in stone when we proposed it. We meant it to be a fluid document, and it will continue to be a fluid document. This afternoon, after a lot of deliberation and numerous meetings, the mayor came up with this hybrid budget. I'm not exactly sure what the council is going to do with this agenda item tonight. Like you, I'm kind of waiting with bated breath to see what's going to go on, but I can assure you that whatever happens tonight will be with the best interest of the citizens and the employees of Prattville in mind. That being said, we'll get into the agenda. Resolution number 1 is to declare various wooded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama, 1975, as amended. Councilman Fink, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Yes, sir. This is to declare various weeded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama, 1975, as amended. The properties are 107 East Bonanza Court, 325 Festival Drive, 108 Fleetwood Road, 180 Gray Drive, 115 Hillwood Drive, 119 Hillwood Drive, 113 Isom Street, 909 Wilberforce, and 111 Wright Street. Mr. President, I so move.
Councilman Fink has moved this resolution for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Argo. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the resolution is adopted 7-0. Next item is an ordinance to amend City Code Division 2, Sales Tax, Section 38-92, C, imposition of certain sales and use taxes. This was held from our November the 1st, 2011 meeting. Is there any further discussion on this proposed ordinance? Councilman Wood.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer an amendment to this and have some discussion on it, please.
By all means, go right ahead.
On line 15, I'd like to have it amended to read ending on the 30th day of September 2013.
Any other amendments?
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You heard Councilman Wood's proposed amendment. Is there a second? Is there a second on Councilman Wood's proposed amendment? Seeing none, this particular amendment fails for the lack of a second. We're back to our original resolution, our original ordinance. Is there any further discussion on this ordinance that was held from our last meeting?
Roll call.
Yes, sir. If you'd like to have a division of the House, we'll have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Striplin?
Nay.
Councilman Wood?
Nay.
Councilman Argo?
Nay.
Councilman Miller?
Nay.
Councilman Reniger?
Aye.
Councilman Bowles?
Nay.
Councilman Fink?
Aye.
This ordinance fails 5-2 or 2-5, however you count it. 2-4-5 against. Ordinance fails. Next item is a resolution to adopt the City of Prattville fiscal year 2011-2012 general operating fund budget held from November the 1st, 2011. Is there any further discussion on this proposed resolution? Councilman Argo.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the recognition. Just a couple of real quick comments. I deeply appreciate the mayor being willing to go back to his office and work with Mr. Mosley on coming up with a hybrid budget. It shows that he's definitely willing to work with the council. I also want to thank the Finance Committee for all the hard work that you put into that budget, because I know that you've actually been meeting on that budget for almost 8 months since the last budget was adopted. So I know that that's a lot of hard work that went into that budget. As I sent to each of you today by email, I'm very uncomfortable on voting for the budget that's before us. And there's a lot of reasons which I've already stated during the mayor's comments, so I won't bore everybody with that again. But I will say this. This budget that's before us, I believe, is more in line with the revenues that we are going to be receiving. I appreciate the mayor being willing to take the 2% growth out of the budget. And given the fact that we still have some unanswered questions about the exact budget document that's before us, do we have a document that gives line by line what each department gets, or do we have a document before us that has a total budget figure? That's an unanswered question. We have some unanswered questions now about the budget because of the sales tax failure. Mr. President, I really do feel uncomfortable. I do want some more time to look at the mayor's hybrid, to give the Finance Committee more time to look at that budget to see if it can be something that we all can support. So with that, Mr. President, I make a move that we hold this budget another 2 weeks, or actually until our first meeting in December.
Councilman Argo has moved to hold this particular item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Bowes. Is there any discussion on the motion to hold? Councilman Miller.
I concur with the suggestion or recommendation on Councilman Argo's part, and I think he verbalized several reasons, some of which he repeated this evening and some of which he didn't in his email to us this afternoon. I also think that our decision on the sales tax needs to track with the budget, and I don't think they need to be disconnected. So I anticipate that we will potentially see a proposal on the sales tax before us concurrent with the budget, depending on what direction that takes. I'll also, I guess, well, that's relative to this. That'll be it for my comments.
Any further comments? Councilman Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to try to be brief on this. Councilman Miller hit the nail on the head. I don't see how you guys are going to get around it. I don't care what kind of budget, like I said, whether it's a hybrid, Cadillac, or whatever kind. It's all contingent on the sales tax. I want it known. The reason I did not support it, because I feel strongly that this body is responsible for, making the next 2 budget cycles. The tax is going to be needed until 2013. It's just simple as that. It hadn't passed. With that being said, I'm very eager to see how we're going to get a budget done without any sales tax increase. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion on motion to hold? Councilman Argo.
Yes, sir. Just quickly, and I'm sure each of you have as well. I've been contacted by a number of constituents who in all my years on the council, they were totally opposed to any tax increase, but they are in favor of a sales tax increase extension because they understand, as do I, as does this council and the mayor and those that are here with us tonight, that sales tax is absolutely essential to keeping this city afloat for another year. My only request to the Finance Committee and to the mayor that, and I agree with Dr. Miller, there will be another sales tax extension resolution, I'm sure, brought because the budget has to be based upon that additional revenue. My only request is that whatever extension is requested, that there also be a plan to wean the city off of that sales tax, because as Mr. Wood has said so eloquently about needing this tax increase through 2013, it's a possibility that none of us sitting up here will be here in 2013. There's a likelihood that a lot of us won't be up here in 2013. That council may decide that they just want to keep that tax in place. So I would certainly request the leadership of the council and the mayor, when you bring a sales tax extension, that there be some plan to get us off of that sales tax, because we promised the citizens that it was temporary. And I'm afraid that unless there is a plan before us that shows that we can wean ourselves off of that tax will become permanent. And I think that we would be doing a disservice to those constituents that we promised if we don't do that. So, Mr. President, with that, I certainly encourage you to have some sort of a plan to get us off. Thank you.
Any further comment on the motion to hold? Councilman Bowes.
I want to jump in on the sales tax real quick also. The sales tax, I like to think that out of everybody on the board, I have the closest pulse to the economic situation in Prattville, simply because of my line of work, owning a business. And the 1 cent, believe it or not, hasn't hurt anything in my line of work, or the business owners I talk to daily. Typically in business, if mine's down, everybody's down. If mine's up, everybody's up. And it's like a roller coaster out here. There's no calm, there's no effect, there's just sheer roller coaster. But this 1 cent really hasn't hurt us because the business owners understand that there's two evils. Let's pick the least evil. Stand in front of a judge and claim bankruptcy or pay our bills. We got to pay our bills. So I voted no so I could be on the prevailing side of this so I could bring it back up. And I just wanted everybody to understand why my vote was no. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to hold resolution number 3, which, by the way, is the budget, not the tax? All those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your... Excuse me. All those in favor of the motion to hold signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition? The motion to hold passes 6-1. Y'all got me confused talking about taxes.
Sorry.
That's all right. Next item is the resolution to affix the cost of demolition of the dangerous and unsafe structure at 110 7th Street. Councilman Wood, will you introduce this resolution? Council will take a 5-minute recess while the room clears. Ask our council members to come back to the dais, please, so we can move forward with the meeting. Councilman, please come back to the dais so we can continue with the meeting.
Just look at when their release was up and talking about the timing. She made the statement that they have to pay 7%. That's not what I heard. That's not what I heard. But can you try to get that clarified in the meeting? Because he's confused. I said, look, let Dean do it. He's better than me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Have a seat so we can start. We'll reconvene the meeting. It's 7:09 p.m. Councilman Wood, will you introduce this resolution? Please, sir. It's item number 4.
Whereas 11-53B-1 through 11-53B-16 Code of Alabama 1975 as amended details the process for the city of Prattville to declare certain unsafe structures a public nuisance in order their repair or demolition, and whereas 11-53B-3 Code of Alabama 1975 as amended requires that the city's order to repair or demolish an unsafe structure be sent to the owner of the property and those having legal interest in the property. And whereas 11-53B-3 and 11-53B-4 Code of Alabama 1975 as amended requires the owners to repair or demolish the unsafe structure within 45 days of being issued an order from the city, or to request a hearing before the City Council of the City of Prattville within 30 days of the order. And whereas 11-53B-3 Code of Alabama 1975 as amended permits the City of Prattville to repair or demolish an unsafe structure if the owner fails to comply with the city order. And whereas 11-53B-5 Code of Alabama 1975 as amended permits the City Council of the City of Prattville to adopt a resolution fixing the cost of demolition and establishing a lien against the property. Whereas the City Council of the City of Prattville finds that 1. The Prattville Planning Department declared the residential structure at 110 7th Street to be a dilapidated structure on August 4, 2011. 2. The Prattville Planning Department issued an order to Jakeisha Robinson on August 5, 2011 to have the property repaired or demolished within 45 days of the notice. Jakeisha Robinson did not request a hearing before the City Council within 30 days of the notice, nor repair or demolish the structure within 45 days of the notice. 4. By Resolution Book 2011A, page 33, adopted on October 18, 2011, the Council declared the structure to be a public nuisance and authorizes demolition. The City of Prattville Planning Department contracted for the demolition and clearance of the structure. The Prattville Planning Department has determined the total cost of demolition to be $2,507.72 and presented such to the City Council of the City of Prattville. Prattville that the cost totaling $2,507.72 for demolition of the structure located at 110 7th Street presented by the Prattville Planning Department is accurate and shall be established as a lien against the property located at 110 7th Street. The property is more particularly described in Attachment B. Be it further resolved that the City Clerk shall record a certified copy of this resolution in the office of the Judge of Probate of Watauga County. Mr. Chair, I so move.
Councilman Wood has moved this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowes. Is there any discussion on this proposed resolution? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, resolution is adopted 7-0. Next item is a resolution to set a public hearing to declare various wooded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama 1975 as amended. Councilman Fink, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Yes, sir. To set a public hearing to declare various weeded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama 1975 as amended. The vacant lot at corner of Quail Run and Deer Trace, 434 Water Street. Mr. President, I so move.
Councilman Fink has moved this resolution to set a public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Argo. Is there any discussion on this proposed resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the resolution to set a public hearing signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, resolution passes 7-0. I'm going to defer to legal counsel for a moment. Mr. McDowell?
Yes, sir.
Items 6 through 28 I've asked to be placed on a consent agenda. Now, do I need to introduce each one of these items by title, or how's the proper procedure as far as introducing the consent agenda items?
It is sufficient to just say consent agenda and items number 6 through 22.
Okay.
But that would be legal. If you want to let the public know what it is, then you can read the top, but legally you don't have to.
Okay. Councilman Fink?
I would make a motion that we move items 6 through 28 to a consent agenda.
The motion has been made by Councilman Fink that we move items 6 through 28 to a consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Strippin. Is there any discussion about this move to consent agenda? Did you have a question, Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Wood.
on this consent agenda on item 27, I believe. Let's make sure. Make sure that's 27. It's item 27. Instead of a $9,000 figure because of the playoff game going out of town now, that figure needs to be $4,500. I'd like to amend that where it's 9,000 is listed, amend to 4,500.
We already have a motion on the floor to move that, so we'll have to ask for the second and the motion to be removed first, right? Yes. Councilman Fink?
I would offer that, remove my
Withdraw
request,
your motion?
Withdraw my motion.
Who seconded that? Albert, would you withdraw your second?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the amendment's appropriate. If you want to amend one before we move.
I'd like to make a motion that we remove number 27 from the consent agenda and do it separately.
All right.
I second.
We don't have a consent agenda before us yet. Councilman Fink.
I would offer that we move items 6 through 26 and item 28 to a consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay. You heard Councilman Fink's motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by either Councilman Striplin or Councilman Wood. Any further discussion on this proposed move to consent agenda? Councilman Miller.
This may be a question of protocol, but if you have a question about one of these just for clarification, is it appropriate to ask that?
Yes.
And, okay, well, the question is about...
We have to
Point of order. It's not appropriate now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Let's get them on the consent agenda first, Dr. Miller. Any further discussion on the motion and second to move these items to a consent agenda? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, items 6 through 26 and on resolution number 28 are now on a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Are you?
Yes, I'm moving that we adopt the consent
Councilman
agenda.
Miller is moving this, that we adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Fank. Now, is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
Yes, I have a question
Dr.
about...
Miller.
Thank you. A question about 14, just the $125 for box of business cards seems sort of pricey, and I assume that's what we've, and I know you're new in your position, but I assume that's what we've historically done, but I would just challenge you to, or request that you shop around and see if there's anything maybe cheaper to do in terms of making this purchase.
Anything else, Councilman Miller?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion about this consent agenda? Mayor, did you have something you wanted to add before we take this vote?
No, sir, I was trying to scramble since I had a few curves thrown at me tonight with the 1 penny and some other items, but I was just trying to make certain we had the Christmas parade overtime for the police department on there.
But we're all covered on that then? Okay. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Now we'll go to item number 27. Councilman Wood, will you introduce this resolution, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Whereas the next Alabama High School Athletic Association playoff game will be held on November 18, 2011, and whereas depending on the outcome of that game, there may be another playoff game on November 25, 2011. And whereas funds are needed to provide overtime pay for police officers to cover the walk route and intersections and to provide traffic control and security. And whereas the approximate overtime cost will be $4,500 per playoff game, totaling $9,000, including FICA, working compensation, and retirement. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Prattville that funds in the amount not to exceed $9,000 for the Alabama High School Athletic Association playoffs are hereby authorized and approved, and said funds are to be made available from the general fund. So move, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Wood has moved the adoption of this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Argo. Is there any discussion on this proposed resolution? Councilman Wood.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I know all amendments should be in writing, so I'm writing fast as I can up here. I offer an amendment where the totals are $9,000 to be $4,500.
Okay, the amendment would change the $9,000 figure to $4,500 then. That's the
correct.
proposed amendment.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a second to this proposed amendment?
Second.
Second by Councilman Argo. Is there any discussion about this proposed amendment? All those in favor of this proposed amendment signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the amended resolution is now before us. Is there any discussion on the amended resolution? Councilman Fank.
Yes, actually, I'll refer this to David. In the previous ones that we had, we included in it some verbiage that talked about being reimbursable because of the 501c3 status of the High School Athletic Association. Do we need to have that included in this as well? I remember I read those.
Yes.
Could you refresh my memory on what? So and talk slow so I can write it while I'm going here.
Why don't we just deem it?
I think I got it. I would offer an amendment to this as well to line item 30, made available from the general fund and be reimbursable by the Prattville High School Athletic Department from the gate receipts received during the athletic endeavor. So moved. On November 25th, 2011.
Okay, you've heard Councilman Fink's proposed amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowe. Is there any discussion on this proposed amendment? All those in favor of adopting this proposed amendment signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign, saying none. Once again, this resolution is amended, and the amended resolution is before us. Is there any further discussion on the amended resolution? All those in favor of adopting the amended resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign, saying none. The amended resolution passes 7-0. It's adopted. Okay, this exhausts our regular agenda unless there's an item to come from the floor. Does any of the council members have anything to come from the floor? Okay, we will open the floor up then for anyone present that would like to address the council on any item. Mr. DeVoe.
Hello, Councilman Reniger. My name is Imam Elder, Bishop Rabbi Dr. John DeVoe. My address is 510 Vendale Road. I serve as the director for the Single Adult Support Center, Multipurpose and Multicultural Arts Center. We are patterned after the Gillespie Senior Center. We do the best that we can to provide support services in our community for single adults 18 to 54 and older, in the same way that the Gillespie Center provides that service to single adults 55 and older. In addition to that, we have the additional responsibilities of sponsoring the city's annual observance of World AIDS and HIV Awareness Day, Health, Wellness, Fitness, and Responsible Sex Awareness Day, which is internationally observed on December the 1st all over the world. Our program will be, actually we're doing a walk for wellness that will start at the Doster Center on December the 1st at 12 noon, down 1st Street, up Chestnut Street, and then we'll have a short devotion here in front of City Hall on that day and that time, and we'd like to have the support of the entire council for that event in every way, in word and deed, financially and counter, in every way that you can to help make that event a success here in our city. In addition to that, I've already spoken with Councilman Fink as it relates to the renaming of Stanley Jensen Stadium in honor of the late coach Lorenzo Pickett. Coach Pickett was born and reared in the city of Prattville, Prattville High School graduated from Alabama State University in college, and then came back to Prattville High School, where he taught and served as a coach for the football team, his alma mater, until the day he died. I think he's more than deserving to have Stanley Jensen Stadium renamed in his honor, Stanley Jensen Pickett Stadium, or, as has also been suggested, to have the football field renamed in his honor to Coach Lorenzo Pickett Field. I think it would do a great deal as it relates to helping to renew the spirit of our great city. And whatever you can do to help support that effort, in word and deed, financially and counter, in every other way, it would be much appreciated.
Councilman Fink?
Yes, John. And you and I have had several discussions on the renaming of the stadium and all. And what I think I played football with Love I was on the team with him in high school when we won the state championship. So I was close to Lowe. I was very close to him. What I would see to be actually more appropriate, since he was an Autauga County Board of Education employee, would be for the Board of Education to quite possibly name a suitable structure, the field house, for example, after Lorenzo Pickett, rather than a city property. That's what I would think would be more appropriate. But I'm just one here. But I do want you to know, I knew him personally. I played football with him personally as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fang. And I knew him personally as well. And I do understand, as you said, you knew him personally. And I did as well as his entire family. But I disagree. I think that it would be fitting. And what it will take in order for this to become a reality is we must have the support of Councilman Fang in order for it to happen, because he has to bring it before the council and ask the council to do it. And the council has to vote on it, as they have done, as pertains to all of the issues that the council has addressed today. And then a majority of the members of the council has to say that they support it as well. And then add the late coach's name to the stadium. That's all that has to happen. Not the Board of Education, not the county commission, not the state legislature, not the Congress, the Prattville City Council. It is my desire, my hope, my faith, that the council will do that. I think Coach Pickett is deserving of that. He loved Prattville High School. Prattville High School football. He sacrificed his life, his family, everything for Prattville and Prattville High School football. It is time for us to do the same for him and add his name to something at Stanley Johnson Stadium, either that facility or that football field.
Councilman Fink chairs the Leisure Services Committee, and I'm sure that he'll bring this up in the committee, and then the committee will bring it to the council what the recommendation is. That's our procedure. So you talk to Councilman Fink, and we're here. We've heard you. We'll do what we can.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Fink. Thank you, Councilman and Mayor.
Mr. Chair, let me just make a statement.
Oh, yes, sir. Councilman Wood, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to ignore you.
You all haven't had a meeting or anything on this. I just encourage you all to go ahead and meet on it and bring it up. Thanks.
Anything else from the council? Okay. Ms. Finnegan?
This brief. Is this going to be discussed in maybe the next council meeting, the wastewater fund, the fee increase, and the enterprise fund?
I'm going to have to defer to Councilman Argo. He chairs that committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The recommendations were made at our work session last week.
Yes.
And there was not enough time to get all of that information put into a resolution for this evening. So my intent is to bring it to the next council meeting and to go ahead and have Teresa Lee go ahead and place it on the website so that people will have a week and a half, 2 weeks to look at it before it gets to the council.
If you don't mind, I'd like to do some figures only to make sure that I understood it correctly.
Sure.
Because I read the article in the Advertiser regarding the figures, and here's my interpretation. It says residential customers now pay $18.50 per month with a fee covering the first 2,000 gallons of the water used. Each additional 2,000 gallons used is $2. My interpretation is we pay $8.50 and we get the first 2,000 gallons free in that $8.50. Then we pay $2 per each 1,000 gallons after that, and we have a $10 surcharge, which is, I'm sure, where it got the $18.50. So when I looked at the other one, and I listened to the video, Jackson Thornton said the average person uses between 5,400 and 5,900 gallons. So I just rounded everything up. So this is what I came up with, and my concern is, and I'm going to talk about this at the next meeting, is at the current fees, you pay $8.50 for the first 2,000, $8 for the next 4,000, and $10 surcharge. That comes to $26.50, because I'm rounding it up to 6,000. The proposed fee is the $11 flat fee, $5.10, because now the new fee is $2.55 per gallon, $5.10 for the first 2 gallons, $10.20, so that's excuse me, I've got this mixed up. The next 4,000 gallons with no surcharge, so that's right. So $11 flat fee, $5.10 for the first 2,000 gallons, and $10.20 increase for the next 4,000 gallons and no surcharge, which came to $26.30. So in reality, the first 6,000, if I'm reading this correctly, is only 20 cents less than what we're paying now. Then every $1,000, every 1,000 gallons after that is a 55-cent extra. So in reality, we're having an increase. But what I read from the paper, it doesn't make like we're having an increase. Did I make sense?
Yes, ma'am, you made perfect sense, but I'm confused.
Okay, go ahead.
So what I would like to do is let me get Mr. Marshall to come back to the council and let you ask specific questions to Mr. Marshall. I don't have a calculator in front of me to do that so quickly.
I calculated.
But
yeah.
the way that it has been explained to us, it will be a decrease for residential and an increase for residential. That's what he talked to us the other evening.
But it doesn't add up that way.
Did I say it backwards?
No, you said residential both times.
There would be a decrease for residential and an increase for commercial. That's the way the rates were supposed to be structured.
Forever, or just the 6,000 or the initial?
No, ma'am. The idea and the premise that he worked off of from the wastewater committee was to make sure, number one, that our department was solvent, make sure that we were taking in enough money to cover what it required us to make to provide the service. Then number two was to make sure that everyone who uses the system pays their fair share of the cost. So the more you use, the more you should pay.
And this is where they talked about apartment buildings.
Yes, ma'am.
They weren't getting
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
But I will be glad to send you these figures, all of you.
If you would, that would be very helpful. Just email them to me.
Because I'll come back up and talk on the next meeting.
Okay.
But I'm very concerned because the way I looked at it, yes, we're getting a 20-cent decrease that first 6,000. Then after that, no, we're getting a 55-cent increase. So we're actually increasing. Okay.
Thank
all
you.
right. I'm going to hold off. I know you guys are ready to go. Thanks.
Anyone else like to address the council on any item tonight? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Evening, gentlemen. John Lee, 819 Cottage Lane.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to make sure that I was clear on something and make sure we're all on the same page with the employee retirement contribution situation. It's been my understanding from reviewing the legislation that there is no required increase in contribution percentage for the city or for the employees. However, there is an option given available to you where you can pass more of the burden of the contribution on to the employees and reduce the amount of contribution contributed by the city. But there's no required increase in order to continue to participate in state retirement.
You're absolutely right.
And I remember, Councilman Reniger, you had spoken at a work session a 2 or 3 months ago, forgive me on the exact time, where you said that the League of Municipalities had issued a letter urging the municipalities not to participate in this increase, and you were going to spread that letter to the other councilmen.
I serve on the executive committee for the League of Municipalities, and yes, that was the recommendation of the municipalities. It said if you can afford to, please opt out.
Right.
That was their term. and they put that in the form of a letter.
And are you guys going to opt out?
Well, that's not before us right now, but it's certainly going to be considered.
Well, I'm urging you guys, please.
Oh, okay, is that what
please
you're asking?
do.
No,
Yes,
I see.
that's
Okay.
where I was going
I'm
with
catching
that.
your drift now.
Yeah. Yeah, please just leave it the way it is. I mean, I know it's tough on you guys and it's tough on us too. I know y'all got a budget to meet, but I would just ask that y'all strongly consider just leaving it as is. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the council on any item tonight? Mayor, do you have a report or a closing comment? Excuse me.
First off, I need some guidance. Without the 1 penny extension, I need to know exactly how to move forward with this city. There's not to mention also, before the end of the night, I would like to collect the hybrid budgets that I had put before you, because I do not want that to be considered as a mayor's proposed budget any further, because without the 1 penny extension, that budget is invalid. And I guess that's one area where I'm very, very confused in, because the indicators that I have been given from the Finance Committee and from various other council members is that the 1 penny was going to be extended. And so I respectfully asked that budget be given back to me so it can be shredded. And if you decide to keep it, please detach my name from it, because that is no shape, form, or fashion a balanced budget. I also need to ask that the leisure services, the public safety, and the fire committees please meet with me ASAP, because I need some guidance on exactly what direction that I can see these departments moving in. I also need to say that I need to stop the negotiations with the county on the ambulance contract, because it's there again, as I mentioned earlier. I cannot go to them with good faith and asking them to negotiate on the contract when I just really do not know what I had to offer. And it's my personal opinion, it's sad that we have gone through all the hoops that we have, all the trees that we have killed for this budget process. And so anyway, at this point in time, I'm planning on running the city, the day-to-day operations, as I have been over the last 9-10 months or so, doing the best that we can to cut, and we have cut quite a bit. The employees have really stepped up to the plate, and it's I know it has to be disheartening to them for them to have gone out and done so much more with so little, and then we're still back here at square one. So anyway, I will be having a department head meeting just as soon as I can to discuss what other areas that we are able to cut back in. But until I get a little better guidance from the committees, from the council, what revenues that we can anticipate, it's there's not a whole bunch more else I can do. Now, until I do get that guidance, we will be doing as much as we can to make our expenses go down. And I think that the track record that we have had over the last 9-10 months has shown a pretty good track record. I stood up here not too long ago talking about the $400,000 in the annual personnel costs that has been decreased, I believe it's in September. Is it on paper? No, it's not on paper. But the track record is there. And if you're willing to ignore that, so be it. But at this point in time, unless I'm given other directions by this council, we will continue our day-to-day operations. there are some special events that, in my opinion, we cannot turn back on unless I'm given specific instructions from the council. And one of those is the December 3rd Christmas parade. So unless I hear something from the council tonight, that December 3rd Christmas parade will be moving forward. We also have been sending police officers as the Prattville High School football team moves about. And unless I'm given specific instructions on that, they will be going down with Prattville to Fairhope to hopefully win down there and go further on to the state championship. But in closing, either shred the hybrid, give it back, or take my name off of it. Because without the backing of the council to move forward, and I guess that's one thing that gets me, and I guess I'm going to stand up here and vent just a little bit. Quite a few people knew that the extension was being voted on tonight. I don't recall one person getting up here and speaking out against that. I mean, it's just beside me on that one. I thought that I had the commitment, but obviously I did not. And so I apologize to the employees of the city of Prattville. I was given mixed messages there, but we will work through this. Failure is not an option here. And so as we do move forward, I will be doing the normal day-to-day operations unless I get specific guidance from the council to stop. But I do see us moving forward and waiting on you guys. But I have done my due diligence with providing multiple. And if you go back in history, there's not anybody else out there who's been in a position where they had to provide multiple budgets. And then for it to, in my opinion, get shot down like this is the sales tax extension is unbelievable. But with that said, I do want to hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. We do have quite a bit to be blessed for, and I look forward to working with the employees in the very near future on seeing exactly what other areas that we can trim back on. But we do have quite a bit of work to do, but I do hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving, and hope I see you at the Christmas tree lighting and the Christmas parade.
Mayor, let me just encourage you not to throw the towel in. What I heard here, even though I voted for the tax extension myself, is the majority of the council wants the finance committee to go back to the drawing board and provide a plan to extend the sales tax, but also to wean the city off of it after that critical time has passed. Perhaps the finance committee didn't do a thorough enough job in preparing the document, but don't throw in the towel, because by this time, by the first meeting of December, the finance committee is going to have something else to place before the council for consideration as far as the sales tax is concerned. Now, whether they vote for it then or not is up to each individual council member to decide. But please don't throw in the towel. You still have the 1% increase until the end of April. So you shouldn't miss a beat. I mean, city government should continue.
We will continue. Like I said, failure is not an option here. But as many hoops as has been brought up for us to jump through, I mean, it's not like running the city is switching a light switch off and on. You have to be able to come up with at least some kind of minimum game plan. And for us, right now, the only thing I can bet on is that the 1 penny extension is not going to happen. And so, anyway, I will be working toward us moving in that direction, because it's just been too many different moving parts up here, I guess, is what how I need to phrase it. But it's I do need to talk with leisure services as quick as possible. I think we need to talk with police department or public safety as soon as possible, and also fire department committee just as soon as possible, just to come up with our different options and because it's, you know, if you just keep trying to put all your eggs in one basket, eventually that basket is just going to fail on you. And so right now, I do know what is out there, which is the 1 penny staying on through the month of April. But then after that, I'm just not going to count on anything else because it's not fair for us to try to run a city without knowing what potentially a full revenue source we might have for that fiscal year, that budget cycle.
I understand.
But I'm going to go ahead and move forward just like the tax ends on the end of April. And we'll move forward.
Any other questions for the mayor? Councilman Argo?
If the council would have voted to extend the sales tax tonight, it would have been extended through September 30, 2012.
Yes, sir.
What were you going to do on September 30, 2012 at 12 midnight? What were you going to do?
Well, I think there again, I'm going to rely back on my record of exactly how much has been trimmed and cut and saved, and as we move forward and find additional ways to streamline, to cut monies, to improve services, there's maybe a little rhyme to my reason, but there again, I've been in this position approximately 10 months, and I think off of that track record shows that I've been serious here. But you think you have to give me a little bit of latitude in the fact that when I got here, and I've been here for 7 years as a council member, 6.5 approximately, but we had to develop a budget because we had rescinded the previous budget. I think that trying to highlight the wastewater department, how it had been neglected, not by the personnel down there, but by the administration, how it had been neglected. We were getting it, in my opinion, on the right track. And I mentioned before, adult information, we had to make some adult decisions, and I think we moved forward there. We increased the revenue there, and I truly believe that after we spend a little more time on this, the study that we have paid for and moving that department and sanitation into enterprise funds and working that like I have already talked with each and every one of you up there about is the right direction for us to move in that area. With enough given time, and you do have to realize, I hope you realize, is that pretty much what we have going on here now is a culture change. I mean, the department heads, employees, they were never really given quite the insight, in my opinion, as they are now. And they have really stepped up to the plate on that. But it's been said by the vast majority of people sitting up here and out here in the audience, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight. But we are moving in the right direction. But anyway, I just wanted to ask that I have a meeting with those three committees as soon as possible, because I guess I just had the misconception that the sales tax, the penny, was going to be extended through September. And so with as little time as we have between now, because when you add in the holidays that are just upon us, you know, we don't have a lot of working time. And if that tax ends in April, that's really only giving me 90 to 120 days to get something implemented. And that's, in my opinion, that's a very short amount of time.
Well, I think you sell yourself a little short. I think we adopted the sales tax increase in less than a month. So I don't think we need to worry about getting it implemented in 4 months. But would it be fair to say that your tenure on the council and now your tenure as mayor, your perspective has changed? Is that fair?
With the new information brought before all of us, yes.
All right. Well, those of us sitting up here have not had that opportunity for that perspective change. We're still operating under the assumption that you're the manager of the city and we hold the purse strings, and you'll manage whatever you're given by the council. Whatever you have to do, you have to do. You have plenty of time, in my estimation, because I said, if you will show me how you're going to wean us off the sales tax, I'll support it. You have my commitment on that. But all we've said tonight is extension, extension, extension. Nobody said end, end, end. So I need to see how you're going to get us off of that 1 penny extension. I've never voted for a sales tax. I don't want to vote for a sales tax now, but I will if you can show me where we can get off of it.
Well, I think there was a date, September the 2012 was the date that was supposed to end, unless it was extended. So in my opinion, there was a date on there, an end date. But, and like I said earlier, I'm just standing up here venting some, but from time to time it feels like that I'm being punished for the sins of the previous person. And there seems sometimes that seems to be a little bit of mistrust between the council and the mayor. But I have been very open and honest. You get the notebook out that I've given each and every one of you guys, and you're going to find a lot more information in there than ever presented before this council before.
You're exactly right. But you know what? I'm going to remember that statement you just made about a little distrust between the council and the mayor, because I served with you for 6.5 years. So I understand where you're coming from, no trust from the council to the mayor. Understand, we're trying to do the best job we can as you try to do the best job you can. So let's don't cast aspersions on us not giving you what you want and you're not getting what you need. Let's don't do that. Let's continue to work together as we have over the last couple of months, and we'll get to where we need to be. But you and I both know that that sales tax is through April. So you don't have to have your big meetings with your department heads and your committees and try to make sure that fear drives everything we do. You don't have to do that. You've got time. You've got an avenue to get to where you need to go on the sales tax extension, at least for me. I can't speak for anybody else up here. But you work with me to show me how we're going to get off of it on September 30, 2012, and you have my vote.
Well, Mr. Argo, I did work with you on this previous budget. You did give me your word in one area. I did do what you asked me to do, and you voted the opposite of what you told me tonight.
Councilman Miller, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, and Mayor, I want to be the first to tell you how much I appreciate all the hard work and extra hours, and I know it's been a very, very labor-intensive thing on your part, and I want to thank you for that. And the citizens have no idea how much they're getting for their dollar, their money's worth with you in this position. And I've witnessed that firsthand. I would probably be frustrated if I were in your shoes, but I do feel like I've got to repeat the comments I made earlier in the meeting relative to the sales tax increase. And I'm one of the people that told you that I would vote for that through September 30th if it was part of the budget that was one that made sense to me in terms of being sound and continuing to move us in the right direction. And yes, as a glass half full and even more, we have made incredible progress. I won't reiterate all the things that you mentioned, but we've really chartered a course in a lot of areas that are very progressive, very much in the right direction. We still have a lot of work to be done, and I know you're well aware of that because you see it up close every day compared to the 7 of us. But again, to repeat what I said earlier in this meeting, I don't think that it is wise to decouple, to disconnect, to separate the sales tax proposal, whatever it ends up being, from adopting the budget. The two go hand in hand. They're married. They're inseparable. So to me, it just doesn't make any sense to vote for the 1 penny extension but not to vote for the budget. And I had a sense that this budget before us was not the one we were going to finally adopt. You issued a hybrid. You tried to come back in the spirit of compromise. You reworked the numbers, you and staff, and you came back to us with a hybrid, as you called it. And I just commend you, aside from what's in it, for being willing to go in that direction to sort of pull these two divergent approaches together, because that's what we're all about in the first place, amongst the 7 of us, amongst the council and you. And I commend you for that, but at the same time, I've not had time to really go through your version in detail. I printed it, I looked at it, but I didn't have the time that it was due and to be able to feel like I'd done an adequate job. So again, voting against that item tonight to extend the sales tax does not necessarily mean that I'm against it. And you have seen votes, you've made votes up here where you vote a certain way, but it doesn't always mean what it appears to mean. Voting for something doesn't always mean you're for it, and voting against it doesn't always mean that you are against it. And I think you know what I mean in terms of, that may not make sense to the person who's not been in our shoes, but there are different reasons you vote against it. This is a good example. I voted against it not because I was against it. I voted against it because it didn't make sense for it to stand alone without the budget that it was inseparable from, in my opinion. So I just want to share that with you. Otherwise, you're going to put me in that group who had made a commitment or who had shared with you what my intent was, and now it would otherwise look like I was going the opposite direction, for lack of better words. So thank you.
Well, I do appreciate your comments, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. But, you know, and maybe I'm standing up here and have so much doubt that we can change so much in so little time, meaning that whenever the sales tax ends at the end of April, that we can change all the programs and everything else that we need to stretch the pennies, to stretch the dollars. And so anyway, it's just I am not trying to kid myself thinking, okay, the tax is going to extend. We will start working as soon as possible on the sales tax ending on April 30th, 31st. How many days are in April? But and that's what we'll be moving toward. That's the only way I can guarantee that the services can be provided to the citizens that we're supposed to be providing.
I would just, and I understand that, and I would just caution you to be very mindful that some of those activities that might play out in that regard, even you know, convening emergency meetings of the committees that you mentioned, could very well carry the wrong perception, give the wrong impression, and raise a lot of anxiety, panic, whatever you want to call it, you know, not only amongst the city workforce, but also among the citizenry. I don't think anybody sitting up here on this dais is ready, willing, able, leaning towards, or in any shape, form, or fashion going to want to see this city crash and burn.
Well, that is not an option. We are going to provide the services that we're dedicated to.
Just, again, I would caution you to be aware that every step could potentially have some unintended consequences, not the least of which is a real, I guess, unnecessary raising of anxiety across, again, the city workforce and the citizenry.
Well, I appreciate your comments, but I guess what I need to say on top of that is that, you know, when I think it was already up here before I stood up here.
I'm done.
Councilman Bowles.
Mr. Mayor, we've been friends for 4 years now.
3 or so since you got on the council.
Have I steered you wrong yet?
No, sir.
Two wrongs don't make a right. It was wrong of us to even vote on that tonight. It should have been held. And I apologize to you for letting it go to a vote. I should ask for it to be held, and Councilman Miller's right. One goes with the other. It will be back for us next week. I would ask you to please let us have this. I have memorized 3 different budgets. It takes a long time to memorize these budgets and these numbers. I'm not the smartest guy up here by any stretch of the imagination. I need time to understand what you've given me. Give me the 2 weeks to understand what you've given me. Mayor, the tax will be back before us. I'm confident that everybody up here understands we have to have it because we don't want to be Birmingham. Nobody up here wants our picture in the paper across America as the next Alabama city to go under. So, Mayor, please, if you don't mind, let me have this. Give me 2 weeks. It will be back before us. It will be fine.
You're welcome to keep it. Like I mentioned earlier, just take my name off of it.
All right. Thank you.
Is that all, Councilman Bowles? Yes. Anyone else? Councilman Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, you can put a smile on. You're doing a good job.
I've got one.
Keep hope alive. You know, I've found out over the years that the only way out of a storm is to go through it. And the only way you're going to get out of this is to go through it. And that's exactly what we're doing tonight. A young lady asked me, I think she was from the television station or the press. I don't know if she's still here or not, but if she's here, I'm going to try to answer a question for her. She asked me about why I voted against the budget that was on here tonight. I think it was a 6-1. Anyway, the budget that was before was the Finance Committee budget. And that budget was lacking a lot of figures when we had our work session. A lot of figures. A lot of additional information was brought out during that work session. That's why my vote was what it was. It actually didn't need to be held. It needed to be voted down completely. Your hybrid that you've given us would be the newest starting point for me. But that vote was because of the lack of information that we had. And when we had our work session, we had a lot of different information. So the Finance Committee budget that was on here tonight needed to be voted down. And it more than likely is going to be voted down. As far as the sales tax, I'm going to go on record again. I talked to you about this. I voted against it tonight, and I think you know why I voted against it. Sales tax, in my opinion, needs to be extended through 2013. And I'm going to hold to that. This body may give you a sales tax through 2012. Well, we're here for 2 more budget terms. And I trust that you as an administrator, it's going to be up to you day to day to keep costs down and to run this city. But I'm willing, and I believe the citizens of Prattville are willing to have this tax on for the next 2 years. I don't think it's fair for an incoming council or mayor, whether I'm up here or anybody else is up here, to come in here and have to try to struggle and make a budget without the revenue source in place. So with that being said, I urge you to go back to work. You know, you want to cry in your office, go in there and cry a little bit. But
no crying in this game.
It's going to be all right. But I would encourage this council, too, to go back, reevaluate this, because I guarantee you guys it will be back before you one more time before each one of you all leave from up here. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and there again, I do agree with you that the penny should be extended through 2013. The debt load that we have, the accounts payable on the books, in my opinion, for us to continue providing the services that we need, we do need that. But now we can still provide the services without that 1 penny. We can have that 1 penny taken off at the end of April, and that's the only way that I feel that I can properly run a company. I mean, all this back and forth, eventually you can't rely on it. So what we can rely on is what's on the books after the month of April, and that's what we'll be moving toward.
Councilman Fink?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Fink has moved that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Strippin. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting signify by raising your right hand.